Good evening and welcome to my podcast. I'm Bob Pace, your host on how to fight CPS and get back your children. I want to say hello to all my listeners that have been following me for many months now. Um, I really feel your pain, what you're going through. I know how bad CPS has been, myself included. And I don't know how else to say that, but I'm in hard times too right now, just like you all are. I was counting on a check for food and transportation, take my son to school, and food to eat, and it didn't come through. It came through in a Mickey Mouse way, and now it won't be available if it is available to next week. It's really sad that I have to talk about this just before I come on the show. Yeah, I'm a little angered. I'm struggling. This has really been the pits. Since 2010, I've lost my job through no fault of my own. And on top of that, my kids were stolen at CPS. They were stolen and taken away. It was terrible. It was terrible. And then, um, you know, okay, I'm sorry for the interruptions. This is really tough for me tonight. This is a really hard subject for all you listeners out there that you're going through. It's hard enough dealing with CPS, but when you have to deal with personal matters, like, you work for somebody, you believe in them, and then they can't pay you for whatever reason. And I don't mean to be harping on this, but it really, I don't know what else to say. This was a traumatic shock to me. I'm a loving father and a husband, and I deserve some respect. I'm 74 years old, and apparently a lot of people in my life show no respect. No respect. I'm trying to help you all with your case, and I do a lot of my own time research on my own nickel. I'm not paid for any researching I do or coming up with the things that I find. Um, Tonight's broadcast is from Southern California. You'll find us in Facebook, and it's broadcast on YouTube with the StreamYard application. It's a struggle. It's a struggle. My life has not been the same since I've been involved in CPS. It still is not the same. It's 14 years since I last was approached by CPS. 14 years is a long time. And yes, I'm angry. Yes, I'm angry. I'm very, very angry. It's wrong when you depend on people and they're supposed to help you out. And, eating food on the table and taking my son to school are very important, like all you other have there. I work in a little job trying to support my family as best I can to find some work. Age 74, it's hard. It's very hard for a man out there to find a work at this age because they think we're too old. I'm very skilled. I know what I'm doing. Now, all of that are struggling through CPS, it's probably really awful. It's hit you hard because what's happened from the stories I've heard in my case, CPS is abusing their power, their position. They're not there to do family reunification. They're not there to take care of the family. This morning, I was talking to a father from Ohio near Columbus. I also had another person from Columbus. And they were telling me the same thing. The one common thing it seems across America is that CPS wants to steal your children for the sole purpose of child trafficking and keeping your kids in there so they can get their money. It's a billion-dollar business. I know firsthand in my case it was because in my case in Orange County, it's a terrible. The CPS director lives in the Taj Mahal of a place. It's a high-story artsy building. It makes the Wizard of Oz Emerald City look like nothing compared to his place. And I met with the top dogs. I've fought the top dogs. I've fought the supervisors. And it wasn't until I got an attorney that I got anywhere. And that's the sad part. Most of us, including myself, could afford an attorney. I know how hard it is. I had to sell my home. I had to use all my savings. And 14 years later, I'm still struggling. I'm still struggling. I have a dysfunctional family, and CPS has ruined it for me. My in-laws were the ones that made the allegations. It was wrong what they did and what they said. And one of the family members is a social worker in Ohio, and they know exactly how to manipulate CPS. And they made the calls that were constantly harassment. And the sad part is they use the police to flex their muscles. They use the abuse of power. They're not transparent. There's no accountability. They don't need license or certifications. They don't even need a college degree. And furthermore, they think that they're doctors to prescribe medicine for emotional distress, or they can diagnostic a parent if they're emotional dysfunctional. No, they can't do that, and they're doing it. I can't believe that over a couple hundred people I've talked to in the last couple months are all making up the same story. They tell me firsthand. Yes, some of them did have hiccups, but they could be fixed. Some of them were fixing them. But a father today was crying out from Ohio how his kids were taken. They now have this thing called medical trafficking. Medical trafficking. The father, had a hiccup in his life. Early on, he was incarcerated. He has a bad criminal record, but it's been like 30 years since that. And he's made good on everything. But they went to the hospital to help out their daughter. And the hospital, let the social workers come in and take their child from the hospital. Now, this is a new thing. I know there's caseworkers at hospital because when I go to the emergency clinic, I always speak to one. They're called caseworkers, but they work for CPS. Doing medical trafficking. I don't know if you knew about medical trafficking, but I like to talk about it here for a second before I get into other things here. Medical trafficking is terrorizing parents right now. Now, once you pay close attention, if you haven't heard of medical uh, kidnapping, as parents, you try to do what is right for your kids. That includes seeking medical attention when you suspect something's wrong. Nothing can stop your heart faster than waking up to a sick child in the middle of the night and racing to the emergency room. Well, almost nothing. Imagine that once through the hospital door, your child may not be free to leave with you. Keep that in mind when you go through the hospital doors. Hospitals are no longer safe for your children. Medical kidnapping is very real, very terrifying term that describes a scenario where the state steps in to take over a child custody when doctors and parents disagree over the medical care your child should receive. The state then places your son or daughter into foster care where you may not even be granted visitation rights. What can trigger medical kidnapping? Despite the courts leaning on the side of the parents maintaining custody and control over raising and caring for their children, medical facilities may not. Just by trying to do what you believe in your child's best interest, you may be doping yourself and your child into a legal minefield that you can't maneuver without proper legal help. Just some of the actions that can lead you to your child being held against your will include disagreements with a doctor or the diagnostic or proposed treatment plan, the recommendation of a risky surgery, prescribing a drug with dangerous unknown side effects, failing to address your questions or concerns. Some doctors don't want to hear you. They think they know it all. Total disregarding your suggestions for alternative procedures or treatments. Parents do a lot of research. They love their children. If the doctor feels strong enough, he or she may have you escorted out by the police will continue to treat your child without your consent. That's what happened to this man from Ohio. This is what happened to him. Department of Social Service moves quickly to obtain, the word is quickly, obtain legal custody over your child, giving the department the authority to make medical decisions for your son or daughter. This can be critically dangerous if your child was previously diagnosed with a rare condition the hospital is choosing to discount. Now, what the healthcare facility will do is terrorizing children, pulling 6 children from their parents under the guise of abuse and neglect seems like a cruel punishment. But often children end up in foster care becomes victims of real physical abuse. These children end up living with strangers when they're at their most vulnerable, making it unlikely they'll be able to fight back. In other cases, the psychological trauma inflicted can be worse than the illness they're fighting. For example, a 13-year-old girl fighting liver cancer was removed from her mother's care when that mother sought alternative treatments because her daughter wasn't tolerating chemotherapy. The police tracked down these parents of a toddler after putting out a missing endangered child bulletin. He was removed from their custody, then transported for medical treatment without the consent of the parents. And it's not minor children victim of medical kidnapping. The Mayo Clinic has been accused of holding an 18-year-old girl against her will and accused her parents of kidnapping a patient when she fled the hospital in 2017. This was a case of dissatisfaction. With the medical treatment that the couple's daughter was receiving. And upon numerous requests and refusals to transfer to another hospital, the family worked together to help her escape. The girl experienced a nearly fatal brain aneurysm and survived, but upon beginning physical therapy over months later, conflicts with the department staff arose when they removed her pain medication and refused to listen to her and her family concerns. Conflicts eventually escalated into the Mayo Clinic, attempting to obtain legal guardianship over the young adult who was mentally incompetent. This is so sad. Social workers now can tell parents and children if they're medically incompetent. That's wrong. That is totally wrong. Welcome, the Truth Movement. Welcome. The Truth Movement is from Mexico. He's a father, has 2 girls in Missouri that's trying to get him back. And it's sad about due process because you'll find out your civil rights and constitutional rights mean nothing in family court, family law, dependency court. You're better off doing a criminal matter that have your constitutional rights and your civil rights that protect you. But in family court, no. Dependency court, no. It's really, really, really sad. Now, this show is produced by Vincent W. Davis Associates. It's a law firm in Southern California. It has many lawyers that cover different aspects of the law: criminal, of course, family service. Then they have other ones, like workman's comp, auto claims, anything, immigration, workplace. So they have a full-fledged attorneys. And I want to thank Mr. Davis, who produces this show. And if you need his help, call him at 888-888-6582. Call in at 888-888-6582 and ask for his help. Ask for his help. He wanted me to announce that several times during the show. So ask for his help. So, I started off the show pretty angry. We're all human. We're not really perfect. We weren't born into this world with a manual of how to operate. I think the only operation manual that exists out there is the Holy Bible. And having your faith in God will get you through it. A faith in God and reading the Bible are 2 important things. So pray to God, and hopefully your kids can return, but do not give up. Do not stop. They'll put you through all the hoops. They'll make you upside down. They will do everything to mess you up. I'd like to tell you how you interact with this podcast. I'm kind of jumping around a little bit. I did tell about medical trafficking, which is really a heartbreaker. I mean, I think of that father and his kids taken from him. All they were doing was seeking medical help. And the doctors turned against him and reported him to CPS. And then CPS gets the police. And they supposedly had a warrant, but the warrant wasn't correctly filled out. You as parents are not policemen. You as parents are not lawyers. You have to read the fine print, and that's where they get you. Now, you can text a comment like the guy from Mexico did, the Truth Movement. Nice man. He's been on the show as a guest. And you just put your name and put the location where you're from, city and state. And if you're from another country, that's fine too, because I have had comments from Australia, Canada, United Kingdom, Ghana, and Mexico. And they have CPS problems too. I don't know everything about CPS. I'm not a lawyer, but I do know what they do is bad. Firsthand. And it hurts. It still hurts 14 years later. Now, another way that you can act with this podcast, instead of texting a message, you can call to be on my show. All you do is do 626 698 0990. That's 626 698 0990. And you can be on my show. And I'd love to have you speak, like tonight, if you want to be on my show. I'd love to have you as a guest and talk about your CPS case. Now, if you're not ready to talk on tonight's show and you really don't want to do comments, you can be on my show at later times as a guest. And I would like you to write an email to my producer, Grace, at vincentwdavis.com. That's Grace at vincentwdavis.com. You email her. Tell her you want to be on Bob's show Monday, Sunday, Wednesday, whatever day of the week. I'm on 7 days a week. Say morning or evening. I'm on at 10 in the morning and again at 7 at night for 1 hour. That's Pacific Standard Time. There will be some changes this weekend. My morning show on Saturday will be at 8 o'clock in the morning, 8 to 9. And my two shows on Sunday, my morning show will be at noon for 1 hour to 1 o'clock. And then my evening show will be on at 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock. There's another podcast starting at 7 that they want that time slot. So those are changes this weekend. And so I'll keep you abreast about that. But I'd love to have you. I'd love for you to be on the show. I'd love to help you. I want to help you. Now, I have 3 rules that I always tell every time on my show. And these 3 rules will help you. The first rule is probably the most important one. It's the painful one. It's the one that involves money. And right now, I know the feeling you don't have much money. I don't either. Tonight, I couldn't even feed my family tonight. For the first time, I've been without food for days. And I had nothing I could scrap around. And I was counting on this money that I had earned this past week to be in my hands for food and transportation. But it's not here. It won't be available maybe next week sometime. What do you tell your family when you can't feed them? What do you tell your son you can't take him to school? He's in his senior year at a private school. And I had a family friend that I thought was helping, and they bailed, by the way, just before he graduates. And now I'm afraid he's going to be pulled out of the graduation exercises. That's sad for a child that's maintained A's and B's that's been accepted to a college. I don't know what kind of individuals are like that. It's sad. It's really, really sad. But rule 1 is I found out you need an attorney to deal with CPS. They are like Alice in Wonderland. You fall in that rabbit hole and you go through so many doors and you go through so many different directions. You don't know what's up or down, left or right. And you need somebody. It's like open heart surgery. Are you going to have a layperson do open heart surgery on you? Are you going to have a beginning doctor, or you're going to do it yourself? No, you get a professional, someone that's gone to medical school, someone that's done an internship, and someone that's been mentored. And, they'll do it right. The same thing goes for CPS. You need a professional attorney, a family law attorney. And I tell people every night, every morning, you need to make a list of 10 attorneys that deal in family law. And from that list, narrow it down to 5 that have that fought um, child protection services, and 1. With those 5, that's when you do the calling. Well, I got you one of those 5 right now. His name is Mr. Vincent W. Davis. He's a professional law attorney, family law attorney. He's a trial attorney. He's done many years of work in this field. He has helped people get out. He has helped, children being returned home. And right now, he's offering to talk to you for a 30-minute at a strategy session for $49.99. That's $50. That he'll talk to you for 30 minutes about the strategies of how to fight CPS and get back your children. So I want you to call in at 888-888-6582. Ask to be scheduled with Mr. Davis. Tell him that Bob Pace sent you, and when you meet Mr. Davis and talk to him, tell him that Bob Pace sent you. And that's really, really important there. Now you call in 888-888-6582. That's the main number at the office, and they will set up that strategy session with you. And if you like him, great. Your work's done. You can hire him, and he'll work in Southern California, Northern California, and all the 50 states. He's reasonable. His thing is based on how long the case has been going on and how difficult the case is. And, of course, the location. If you live in Northern California or live in other states, it's going to cost you more because of the transportation getting there and the accommodations all staying there. But I find you do need an attorney. I tried one for a year and a half, got nowhere. I wrote emails, I had meetings with them, and all the director did with his gold around his neck so heavy that I thought he'd fall over. They are tricky about money. And the foster carers get money too. One of the people on here worked as a cashier, and they said they saw checks in amount of $14,000 for one child. Not $1,400, $14,000 for a foster care parent. My kids were put in foster care. They started a shelter, then a group home, and then individual foster care. And my young son was abused. Well, both my sons were abused, and my daughter. This is the sad, tragic spot. And CPS doesn't care. But they were revengeful. My social worker, who all she talked about was a Gucci purse, her eyelashes, her makeup, her clothes, and her BMW car because of all the bonus she gets. She lost it in court because she was lying underneath the stand. She was lying, and we proved her wrong. And she said to my wife and me, "You'll see. You will not see your daughter again." And she kept her truth. She told a 12-year-old child, "Divorce your parents. It's better for you. Change your name. Seal your birth certificate." And she did all those things. A 12-year-old doesn't know those things. And she's 21 now, and the scars are there. She doesn't like her biological family, and the family members of her older kids have been contaminated by this. They don't see or talk to us. We have older children that weren't involved in CPS, but they've now turned against because they believe. It's so ridiculous what people believe. There's so much stuff out there, it's hard for sanity. But hire that attorney, hire Mr. Davis. You'll be glad you did. And if you don't, you need to get an attorney. If you think going to court with a court-appointed attorney, a public defender, is going to be any good, you're wrong. I used one. They're terrible. My wife used one. They're terrible. They don't have the background in family law. They're very young, just starting out. And their caseload is 20 or more. How are they going to pay special attention to your case? Attorneys should have no more than 4 or 5 cases. If you have 20 cases, that's a lot of cases. And the sad part is the courtrooms are contaminated. It's a kangaroo court. The judges, the social worker attorneys, the social workers, they're all in cahoots with each other. They socialize with each other. Even the public defender does. So you're not going to see any compassion, and you're not going to see any family reunification. All they want to do is keep your children in foster care so they get their big check, and it's over $20,000 a month that the state or the federal government pays them. And that's another thing. You think about that. Our federal government is always bankrupt. You know why? They take the money that we work at a hard job, and I've been working for 59 years. And they take that money, put it in a place where it collects interest, make interest off your money that you worked hard, and not share the interest. And then on top of that, give the money freely to agencies that have no accountability. The Child Protection Services has no accountability. There's a court, a CPS case, or a county CPS place that was audited, and $389,000 was missing. Where did it go? They don't know. They're looking at each other. I don't know where $389,000. I tell you where the money goes. It goes to people's pockets. They're making a rich lifestyle on that. And the sad part is our Congress has no control over the money they're spending. That's why they're out of money. The U.S. military is milking $500 for a toilet seat. And I don't think it's the military. I think maybe it's the civilian contractor. Whatever it is, on board those ships, they're charging the government $500 for a toilet seat. Well, if you go to Lowe's or you go to Home Depot or Walmart, a toilet seat are maybe 20, 30, maybe at most $100, not $500. There's a lot of misappropriate and waste of public funds. And we should have a right to say something. Our senators and congressmen should be looking at each other and question where the money is. There's a group, a fanatic religious group in Utah, that has convinced the government to give them money for a special program to come up with alternative fuel source. They get millions of dollars every year, and they have done so for the last 20, 30 years. And they've not made one drop of fuel. All they do is to support their cult. And it's sad because the U.S. government is doing nothing about it. There's a big waste of money. And that's why we're out of money. It is because it's just that we're not keeping track of money. We don't have any auditors. We have no check and balances. It's interesting. We have the executive branch, which runs the country. We have the judicial branch that keeps law and order. And then we have the executive branch, which is your president and stuff in the cabinet, so forth, that oversees the group, the Congress that run the other part of the country. It's really a shame. And you need to really know where your money goes, and it's not being used there. So, rule number 1, get yourself Mr. Davis. It's real simple. 888-888-6582. Now, again, if any of you want to wish or any comments or write me, please do so. I love your comments. I love your emotes, your emojis, or whatever you call them, the hearts, the thumbs up, the smiley faces. I love those. Keep those coming in. I love comments and things like that. Now, rule number 2 is a clerical rule. You probably think, what do I know about clerics? Well, You need to keep track of all the incidents that you're involved in with child protection services. You need a fresh, clean notebook. You write down the date and time of your first incident. You put the people that are involved. It was the mother, the father, the children, the social workers, the police, herders. You write them and their names down. If you don't know them, you give them numbers and do number count. The second line is a descriptive of what the incident was. They came to my home and took my children. And you want to keep a couple lines for the incident. Then after that, you want to put the outcome of the incident. What happened? The child was returned. You may not know for a couple months. You may not know for a couple years. So that goes in on the third or fourth line down. Always leave plenty of space. Then after that, leave a couple lines and put your next incident. Keep repeating it with each incident. That way you have a notebook that'll be useful. And if a year from now, you'll be able to look back and see it. Also, you can highlight it with highlighters. Use yellows and pinks and colors that show up something that you want to find again. So that's rule number 2. Now, rule number 3 is the one that everybody makes this mistake. I do, everybody does. Is you don't want to talk to social workers. You don't want to say anything but yes and no. Be polite. You don't want to talk to a policeman. Yes or no. Be polite. Do not let them in your home to do home inspection. They don't need to go through your underwear drawer. These social workers are so weird. I mean, I don't know where they get their training because I don't think they are trained. At least there's no accountability for them. In my case, in Orange County, there isn't. And I think all the other states. And I've talked to Maine. I had a case where someone was in the hospital getting treated, and she put her children with her mom in Rhode Island, and the social workers thought the child was neglect and came over to her mom from Boston, Massachusetts to Rhode Island and took her children. That's how unbelievable. From another state, they went into that Rhode Island jurisdiction. And here's Massachusetts. I'm pretty sure if the social workers knew what was going on, they'd be pretty upset about that. But a lot of these cases are happening. It isn't one or two incidents. If it was just a couple or a handful of incidents, I would agree with you. But it's sad. There's a father who's in Alaska living in a tent to be near his children. His wife has died. The children has the father, and he's trying to get them back. And he didn't have much money. See, that's another thing. They take advantage of the people that are homeless, that lost a job, or that are very low income or not educated. They love to take advantage of those kinds of people. And I'm sorry, you need to fight them. You need to do so. Now, I've been researching a little bit, and I've been noticing something here. I wanted to get a flow chart of CPS. Now, juvenile dependency flow chart. It should be pretty much the same in all states. Social services responds to a referral or suspected child abuse. Now, that referral or suspected child abuse is a phone and call by a layperson or a professional. A layperson is family members, a relative, your friends next door, those kinds of people that don't work with children. Then there are the professionals, the teachers, the policemen, the doctors, the nurses, the school teachers, the counselors. They all are professional, and they must, to part of law, if they suspect neglect or abuse, they must report it. Both individuals report it, but the problem is lay people use it for retaliation, or they alienate the parents from the children. There's a lot of alienation going on. I thought alienation, first of all, it's illegal, but I thought alienation is strictly to divorced couples trying to make the other child look bad. It's a real troubled world out there. And, you're trying to take care of your children, and then you got some agency that has greed in their mind, and then they don't care about the thing there. Now, that's one way. In response, also the children could be removed by a peace officer or a probation officer. That's if the parents have a hiccup problem and they keep repeating, and the probation officer will have to remove the children. Now, there's two ways the child goes. One, the child goes into protective custody, or the child's not in custody. Now, in protective custody, our kids are put into a shelter, and the shelter was next to the dependency court, and their play yard was the same yard as the prison for juveniles. So there's no protection. They put our children in harm's way there. Furthermore, there was a beehive or several beehives that were stinging the children. No protection for our children. And I don't know if my sons are allergic to bees or not, because I am. It might be a hereditary thing. So they're put in this shelter that didn't have adequate food, no adequate sleeping, is overcrowded, dirty. And for school every day, they would read them a book. Well, my kids are all in STEM. They're in the science, technology, engineering, mathematics classes. They're on the way to become engineers or pilots or whatever. They're high technical, a lot of heavy math. I'm talking calculus in high school, statistics in high school. I'm talking about chemistry and physics and biology, and marine biology. They take all those things. And my sons, 4 years, they've taken 4 years of science, 4 years of math, geometry, algebra 2 and trig, algebra 1, pre-calculus, calculus, statistics. They also take engineering, like robotics, and technical classes too. So, reading a book to them is not my idea of putting them in their school of origin. So once in protective custody, there has to be a dependency petition filed under Welfare and Institution Code 300.325. That dependency petition is filed by the social worker. Then they have what's called a jurisdictional hearing within 30 days. But I noticed that they missed the part about having a safety meeting in this flow chart. Even this flow chart's not right. But this flow chart, you can find it by Googling it. Just look for the flow chart of CPS. And it helps you because you need to know the different kinds of cases and so forth. Again, I want to thank Mr. Davis for producing this podcast. If you need his help, please call him 888-888-6582. Also, if you want to be on my show, there's still 15 minutes left. You can talk on my show. If you can't, you want to be on a later time, please email Grace, my producer, at vincentwdavis.com. That's Grace at vincentdavis.com. And the call-in number is 626-698-0990. Okay, so we're talking about the flow chart of CPS. Now that the petition is filed, before the petition, there should be a box in there called a safety meeting. Let me tell you about the safety meeting. The safety meeting is where your kids may be in a temporary shelter and they want to be put somewhere, and you don't want to put them in foster care. A group home is foster care. Individual home is foster care. The shelter is foster care. Foster care is really a liberal word. And they are paid, by the way. They are paid just like the CPS workers are. So they get money to be in foster care. They're supposed to have gone through some training. And some of them do want to adopt your kids, so you got to be careful there. But at that safety meeting, they're going to ask you to make a list of family members your children could stay with. And we did with ours. We said our 3 children could stay with my wife's sister and her husband. But we thought it was only for a couple months. See, they have typically it's 48 days to complete, the case. But they take years. Mine was 3 years. Some the other day said they were there for almost 18 years. It's ridiculous what they go through there. But they have a safety plan meeting. And for all you Native American Indians out there, the first immigrants to our country, if you have Indian blood and your tribe is recognized by the federal government, the social workers should contact the tribe and see if you're registered or could be registered so that your children can be placed with an Indian family, which is a lot better than CPS's foster care. They can be placed with an Indian family that's not greed out for money, and they will look after your child and return them to the family. American Indians have a strong background of family. So do most outside cultures do. So the tribe will look after their own. So I need to say it's called ICWA, Indian Child Welfare Act. ICWA. Okay. Once the petition's filed, then there is called the detention initial hearing. If the child's in custody, it occurs within 24 hours after filing the petition. So when the petition is filed, you should see that petition. And you have 24 hours to have that hearing. Now, jurisdictional hearing, which is different, within 30 days, calendar days, a petition for child not removed. 15-day detention if removed. So if the child is being removed, it only needs to be 15 days for the jurisdictional hearing, and that's under 355, Health and Welfare Code 355. Then after the jurisdictional hearing, there is the deposition hearing. And out of that disposition hearing could be legal guardianship established. Look up Health and Family Code of 360. Declared dependency or dismissed. And after that, the child can be declared a dependent. Now, if the child's not in custody, no petition is filed, it's dismissed with informal supervision dismiss. It still goes to detention hearing, but it's dismissal. The court may just set aside the petition any time before dependent turns 21, not 18, 21. That's under the Health and Welfare Code of 390. And then from disposition, jurisdiction hearing, 355 code, and then dispositional hearing, 358 code, dismissed with informal supervision and is dismissed. And dependency not established. Or it could be a child declared a dependent. So that's a flow chart of CPS. I don't know if that helps you or understanding things are, but there's a lot of things you are going through, your child and you are going through. Now, there's an important thing that you want to know is a 388 petition. A 388 petition is something really, really important. I thought I had it. I'm still looking for it. It's a 388 petition. It's where you want to have a hearing to make changes to your current plan. Now, what are 388 motions? They're modifications of the juvenile court judgments and orders. .388 motions are a way to modify or change juvenile court judgments and orders that are filed when there is a change of circumstances or new evidence. They're used to get to petition the court for a hearing to change, modify, or set aside any previous court order or terminate the court's jurisdiction. They have to have a hearing within 30 days when one is filed, and all parties need to be served. The social worker attorneys, the children attorneys, everybody has to be served. It is something that you should get a attorney to do, a family law attorney. And the 388 may not be called a 388 in other states. I know Maine it is, California is, but other states may call it something else. But it's a change or modification of having the judge hear your new evidence or the changes to the plan or whatever. So it's real important you know about the 388. Now, you can make complaints. That's something that everybody dreads, but you can make complaints. You can make complaints regarding county social workers' conduct. And you make it addressed to the director. Now, I try to go to the director and use a hopeless cause. I'm not saying it will work for you, or maybe your area is a little bit more reasonable. If you have a problem with the child custody or visitation issues, they should be directed to the Family Court Service Office in the county where the orders were issued. The Family Court Service Hours. The family court investigators, child custody evaluators, and family court mediators are available to provide dispute resolution in all the counties. So you want to look at a thing called the Family Court Service. And you want to look underneath courts. The easy way to find is www.courts. And then the state, your two letters of your state.gov. Also, some of you may ask of child support issues. Again, you can go to the California Child Support Program for California, but then you go to other states, it's called the support program. Now, there's a thing called an ombudsperson and a CASA. They're supposed to be helpful, neutral parties, but I think they work for CPS. It seems like everybody's got their hand in the cookie jar. Now, if you're going to make complaints, you go to the director of the county, of the social worker, the director there of the county of CWS. You can also make complaint about law enforcement officers, but that will go to the if you have complaints against the sheriffs or the police agency, you need to go and file a complaint with the county district attorney's office. The county. Also, you can complain about the judges for wrongdoing or misconduct. Again, you go to the State Commission on Judicial Performance. And a complaint form can be obtained by calling the number for the commission. the State Commission on Judicial Performance. So that's how complaints are made. I only got a couple minutes left, and I want to, instead of rushing off, I want to thank you all for listening. I hope that, your case with CPS is successful. I know from my experience, stay with it. Do not give up. Do everything they ask. Say very little. Don't discuss it. They're not your friend. As long as you do everything they ask, you'll get your children back. And you have to protect your constitutional human rights, which means you have to do a lot of researching. You need to go on the internet and Google everything and do what I do. Research, learn. And you need to get that attorney. I don't know how else to emphasize it. I want to thank Mr. Davis for producing this podcast. And if you call him at 888-888-6582, he will help you. He is a family law attorney. He's a trial attorney. He knows CPS. He's fought against them and he's won. He's also sued against CPS. So he's a good attorney to hire. And right now he offers a consultation for 30 minutes for $49.99. That's $50. And you can talk to him about strategies of how to fight CPS and get your children back. But I cannot emphasize how important it is to get that attorney. I wish I did, because, man, I would have got my daughter back. But whatever you do, try to control your emotions. Do timeouts. Do walks. You don't want to be angry with these people, even though you should be. These people are very corrupt. The least you say, the better off you are. And one way to really discourage them is say, I need to talk to my attorney before I answer that question. Or I need to see my attorney first. You may not have an attorney. They don't know that. But you put the ruse on that you need to talk to your attorney. So if someone tries to take your children, you say, I have to talk to my attorney first. They have to have a warrant. They have to have that paper that says specifically what they intend to do, what the allegations are, the name of the person, and the location of the person, the date, and the time. And it's got to be a wet signature signed by a judge, not a bunch of drawer full of copies. CPS are notorious. They lie. They are just, I don't have a kind word to say them because I know they're trying to do their job, but I guess the money has got to them. The greed and the promise of the bonus has gotten to them. And, yeah. So, family is important. And the best family for children are the biological mom and dad. It's been proven that the best parents are the biological parents. So whatever you do, try to work out your difference between each other and think of the child and protect that child. Protect the child. There's a lot of abuse goes on. Don't get me wrong. I see it all the time in the news. And we as parents got to take more control of our children. They should not be wandering the streets at 11:30 at night with loaded guns. It's what happened at Easter weekend in Indiana. Because life is precious. Oh, we got someone that came in at the last minute. Diana Gallagher. I need to call him. I don't want to live anymore. I cry every day and don't sleep anymore. Both of my parents have passed away. I miss my kids so much. I can't keep going without them. Diane, I don't know what city or state you are. I think you've been on before, but I'd love to have you as a guest on our show. And so if tomorrow, which is Saturday, I'm on at 8 o'clock in the morning. That's another thing. I'm on at 8 o'clock in the morning, not 10. I'm on 2 hours early tomorrow. And on Sunday, I'm on at noon instead of at 10:30. And then I'm on again in the evening at 6 o'clock. Those are my times there. But Diane, I know how you feel. I feel for you, Diane. and I do care about you. Hi, Divine Diversity. Illinois, the information I gave you should work there too. It should work there too. So I want to thank all my listeners. My time is up. I do have to leave. Please call in tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning and we'll talk some more, Diane. Yes, you can talk on Saturday. She's in Rhode Island. Oh, I have someone else from Rhode Island. That's great. All right. Again, thank you there from Mexico. The Truth Movement. He's a nice man in there. He's trying to get his daughters back from Missouri. So I really care about you guys. God bless you. Good night. And I'll see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning.